So it was you, Becky, that was asking about muscle soreness?
Yes. I can remember when I was here before and after the exercises and stuff, I would feel sore the next day. Well, when Heather and I come here and we're doing our weightlifting, I mean, we're not feeling anything the day after, and we're like, well, we struggled on some of those weights. It's not like we just went boom, 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 and we're done, boom, boom, boom. I mean, we struggled on like the last couple, like you had said. We try to do that, but we're not feeling any hurt the next day, and we're wondering if.
Okay, so none at all, ever.
None at all.
I just want to say a funny little thing that I will always remember about Heather, that she told me like years ago. She said, because her husband was helping her lift some, and she said, I have no idea what works what. I just wait and see what hurts the next day. I always just remember her saying that, but yeah. So.
All right. Well, I guess she gave you the short version of the answer in the chat there.
Yeah.
But today we're going to look at it a little more and see what the indicators are that you are doing the right stuff and hitting the right intensity. So the first way you're going to know that you are working hard enough is the fatigue, which, like you were saying, when you were getting towards the end of the sets, it was like you were struggling with it. And especially, I'm guessing, as the workout went on, you were getting tired earlier and earlier within the set, which is a good sign that you're hitting the right intensity that you got to do. The one big thing with that is the reps in reserve, which I think she touched on. Did you understand that?
I don't know what reps and reserve mean. I know what
reserve.
Oh.
So
okay.
Basically, when you're done with the set, how many more sets or how many more reps could you have done when you decided to stop? So if let's say you stop at 10, but you could do 5 to 10 more, then you're not really getting a very good intensity with that, and you're probably not going to experience much soreness or muscle growth after that. But if you go up to 10 and you can only do maybe 2 or 3 more reps, then that's how you know that you hit the right intensity that you should be hitting.
Okay, so we're kind of sticking to, we do 10.
Okay.
And then we're done. We shouldn't be thinking that way then.
No.
Or, we shouldn't be thinking that way. Okay.
So, I got some tips here after we go through kind of the signs that you are hitting the right intensity. That'll kind of point you in the direction as far as how to design your sets to make sure that you are hitting that intensity every time. All right. So yeah, muscle fatigue is that first one that you're going to be feeling during the sets and cumulatively throughout the workout. You're just going to get more and more tired. Other type of fatigue is joint fatigue. So if your joints start getting sore, that's normally a sign that you're either doing something wrong or that exercise just isn't very good for you. So the key with that
What about muscle pain?
Muscle pain.
Like if you're doing something on your shoulders and it's not fatigue, but it's like a pain. That means you shouldn't be doing that exercise, or it's too heavy.
What kind of muscle pain?
Like hurt, like.
Yes, most pain hurts, but.
Well, I mean, I don't
like not fatigue, but it's like, it hurts when I move my arm in that position.
No, it's not a burn, because that to me isn't like a muscle fatigue. It's not a burn. It's like maybe it's hurting the muscle. Do you know what I mean?
I know what
telling
you mean.
me to stop. Do you know?
Like for instance, is it like when I move my arm into this position, it hurts when I get to this point. Yeah.
Yes.
So that would usually be a sign of poor range of motion and maybe like a weak stabilizer somewhere in that area. And that was actually something else I was going to cover here
Oh,
in a
sorry,
minute.
go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay.
It's good that you're feeling in
Yes.
touch with your body and
Yes.
asking these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I just don't want to
purpose
rip
of this.
anything, and I know, like in softball, when I was throwing, I threw my shoulder out, and
Mhm.
it took 6 months for that to heal. And I didn't want, in the weightlifting, I didn't want to
Mhm.
damage anything again like that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll cover that here in a minute.
Okay.
So, but basically with the joint fatigue, what you want to look out for with that is like that your joints themselves are not getting more sore than the muscles. So like if you're doing like, let's say push-ups and your shoulder's killing you, but you're not feeling it in your tricep or your chest where you should be feeling it, it's like all in the shoulder.
Yeah.
That's kind of a sign that there's probably something up with your shoulder that you might want to
Okay.
correct before you continue with this exercise. Same thing with your knees. Like if you're doing squats and your knees are killing you, but you're not feeling it anywhere else, then you gotta go and re-strengthen and stabilize your knees before you go back to doing that exercise. All right. But if you are getting like serious muscle fatigue, more so than the joint fatigue, that's perfectly normal because you are going to strengthen your joints by putting that kind of stress on them in the connective tissue there, and also working on the range of motion. That's going to be how you build up the tendon strength, the ligament strength, and just overall build a more solid joint. Like you do need to put that stress on it, but it should never be getting stressed more than the muscle. So let's say you're doing squats and you feel it a little bit in your knees, but your quads are fried, then that is exactly what we want.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for. Same thing with a lot of the exercises I do with you, Abby, where we're doing like short range of motion, like the step ups, the step downs, the walking backwards and stuff. That's all very short range of motion in the quads, which you are going to feel a little bit, but that is actually designed more so to stress your knees to help to build those up. So there are times when you do want that joint fatigue more so than the muscle fatigue, and that is when you're actively trying to rehab that particular joint. And a lot of what you're going to be feeling is like you talked about with that kind of like impingement feeling, or like just something feels off here. It's because we're working on those smaller muscles around the joint, which is going to cause you to feel it more in the joint than in one of the bigger muscles that you're more used to exercising. And then the last kind of fatigue I want to touch on is axial fatigue, which is basically like your spine, your nervous system. They kind of both fall into this. But if you were lifting heavy weights, it tends to wear you out a lot faster than if you're doing lower weights for a lot of reps. And it's a lot harder for your body to recover from that. So if you're doing like deadlifts or squats or anything that you're kind of like putting external stressor on your spine, whether that is in the deadlift motion or just supporting yourself while you're holding weight, that is taking up a lot of your energy, and you're going to fatigue from that a lot faster. So a lot of those exercises, it's best to try to work those in towards the end of the workout, so that way you can still maximize all the other elements of what you're trying to work that day, all the other movements. The next sign that you're hitting the right intensity is that you are feeling like you worked that muscle. So the soreness the next day is a great sign that you did enough, but it's more important that you're feeling it while you're doing it in the specific muscle that it's supposed to work.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So if you are, are you doing enough that you're kind of like feeling a pump in the muscles that you're working? They feel like they're getting like a little swollen just from the blood circulation and everything?
I don't know what that would even feel like. I have no idea. I know that I feel it burn.
So, do you ever notice, let's say you're doing some kind of like arm exercise, do you ever feel like your sleeves are a little bit tighter afterwards?
No.
No? Okay.
Well, you probably don't have tight sleeves.
Yeah. So that's going to be one of the bigger ones, is that you are feeling a pump, you are feeling those muscles actually working. So I know a lot of the machines will have the diagram of the guy on there
Yeah.
with the muscles highlighted, like this
Yes.
is what that's supposed to work. And if you're paying attention while you're doing it, you should be feeling it in those spots.
Yeah, we don't.
You don't feel it?
We don't. Because we have been looking at those diagrams down there, and we're like, it doesn't feel like, it feels like it's working like different muscles. So maybe we are doing it wrong, but
Okay. So one of the other things, I guess that's going to be in this little next section we're going to cover. But basically the pump, the feeling, or even just the fatigue in that muscle. So let's say you were doing the little like tricep extension machine down there.
yeah.
Even if you don't really feel your triceps getting sore, but if you're feeling them getting fatigued and like you're struggling
Yeah.
to keep with the motion, that is still enough to know like, okay, I am working this enough that I should be feeling something.
Most of them, a lot of them we do. Like that
Okay.
one especially, we do feel it back here.
Okay, so then what I would say for you is that a lot of the soreness there comes from the fact that you said you were just stopping at 10 every
Yeah.
time.
That's
So
what it is.
you're not quite getting the volume that you need to be able to cause the muscle damage that's gonna cause that soreness, which is gonna make it recover and grow back stronger.
Okay, so we have to stop with the numbers and go with what you're feeling. Like, we've just been doing 10 reps and then 3 of those, okay?
Yes,
And that's just what we've been doing.
that's how most people begin.
Okay.
All right. So what I would recommend is the way I do my workouts is I aim for a rep range, 8 on the lower end, 12 on the higher end.
Okay.
Although it doesn't necessarily need to be that. Since you're a little newer and using lighter weights, I would recommend sticking with the higher one of like 12 to 15 or 15 to 20, just because doing those higher reps are it's gonna hit your muscles harder.
Yeah.
You're gonna get more work into it, so you're more likely to start feeling that pump, especially with the lighter weights. And you're also going to you're gonna get a better feel for that exercise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially doing it with a lighter weight, it lets you focus more on actually contracting the muscles for that movement. So like right now, I'm not moving any weight, but I can still feel my tricep firing. The same thing if you're like flexing.
Right.
All right. And it's like, even if you do this enough without any weights, you're eventually going to get a bicep pump. If like it's going to look bigger, it's going to start getting tired just by going like this without any weights.
So we need to less weights. Don't concentrate on
Less weights. Don't
And
concentrate on the
concentrate on the muscle that you're supposed
concentrate
to
on the muscle that you're
Okay.
supposed to be doing. But the reason we have that rep range is that once you can do 20 with good form, or however many, whatever the top of your rep range is, once you're getting that with good form, because I guess form fatigue is something else I should have put in there, which is basically, it's like the big muscles feel like they can keep doing the exercise, but the smaller muscles are starting to get tired, so you can't do it with great form anymore.
Right,
So it's
right.
like, this is more so when you're lifting heavier, not necessarily for beginners, although I guess you would, that's why I'm recommending the higher rep range, so that you do get a little more fatigue in there. But usually the big muscles are going to tire out later. So if you're doing shoulder press, chances are it's going to be the stabilizers in your shoulder that start to go, and you start losing
Mhm.
the motor control in there. All right, that's a sign that the stabilizers need to get strengthened, and even if you're not feeling it in the bigger muscles, that's still a good sign that, okay, this is where I should stop for now. And maybe you don't feel that in the bigger muscles the next day, but you do feel it a little more around the joint.
Okay.
Have you been experiencing that at all? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add in here?
I like the idea of the rep range, and just in your mind, like, yes, there's a couple ways to look at it. If you say I want to shoot for 10, then you have to really dial in the exact weight. Like, it could be that 10 is fine as long as you pick the right weight, but if you lock your mind into I'm gonna do 10, you don't have that, play to be able to say, oh, but I could do 2 more, so I do. Like 10 might be or 15 might be your range, but I think you can't go wrong if you say, I'm gonna go to the point where I could only maybe do 1 or 2 more in good form. And then, you don't have to do it to failure, but you need to do it till you can only do 1 or 2 more in good form. So definitely not having that locked in mindset that I'm gonna do 10 and stop.
Okay.
And even from set to set, maybe on your first set, that point occurred at rep number 14 that, I can't really do more than 1 or 2 more. And then the next time around it might be 13, but as long as you're getting to that point,
Okay.
then you know.
That's the important thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the soreness does come from that you've done enough to kind of like damage and break it down a little bit, and so. But again, you can still, you might have an extra, or you might have a day where you're not feeling tons of soreness. It doesn't necessarily mean you didn't do enough, as long as you were going by these principles.
Yeah.
And you'll also find too that certain exercises tend to cause more soreness. Like if it's something that stretches the muscle more, like for instance a fly like that, where you're really opening up the chest, that you're gonna feel that more the next day than something that didn't stretch it.
Okay.
But I think Brock has some good ways that he's describing of how to know
Yeah,
when you're
makes
doing
sense.
enough.
And so basically the way I work that then is once I can do the certain weight for the number of reps at the top of my rep range, that's how I know it's time to bump the weight up and then restart at the bottom of that rep range.
Gotcha.
And so that way it pulls in on the key of whether or not you're hitting the right intensity, which is, are you seeing consistent progress every week, every 2 weeks, or at least on a consistent basis? Are you either doing 1 more rep on that exercise, or are you adding in more weight? And seeing that progress is really what's going to be the sign that you are doing the right intensity that's going to get you the results that you're going for.
Okay.
So one thing with weight, using the lighter weights, like she said, it is going to take more reps to feel that. And a lot of people at the beginning, they actually don't need to take off days because the weights they're using aren't big enough to cause enough damage that they need to rest. But then you see like a power lifter squatting 500 or whatever, and it's like that. He's not going to be sore afterwards because it was just 1 rep, but he is going to need a break for a long time just from that 1 lift. Does that make sense? And then the last thing I wanted to cover was exercise selection. I kind of brought this up earlier, where if you're getting weak in your shoulder while you're doing a shoulder press, but your big muscles, like your delts, your tricep, your chest, they all feel okay, but you're starting to lose stability, that's a sign that you need to focus on restabilizing your shoulder, maybe getting better mobility in it, stretching it, and strengthening all of that. Same thing with your knees. If you're doing squats and your knees start shaking or giving out, and like your knees are the problem when you're doing that and not your quads or your glutes or anything, that's the biggest sign that you need to focus on that. And the good thing about focusing on that then is that once you get that fixed, the other lifts are probably going to go up very easily after that. So basically, you want to go for the lowest hanging fruit, or whichever exercise is going to get you the most benefits. So it's like if you're trying to do squats and it's your core that's giving out instead of your legs, then you got to work on more core. And the cool thing about doing it at these rep ranges where you are getting to the point where you're feeling that fatigue and where that fatigue is occurring, it's going to point to, okay, this is what I need to focus more on.
Okay.
And that's all I got for this lesson. Is there
That's
any
good.
questions that you got? Anything I didn't cover? Susan, you look like you're thinking.
No, it's helpful. Yeah. I don't know. I just need to do more.
Gotcha.
Okay.
One other thing that he brought up that I just want to really, really emphasize, especially as you're beginning, because you want to get this right from the start, is that whole like feeling the muscle, getting that connection and
Yes.
feeling what is working. And I've had guys say, like especially like younger guys, they're they just want to keep up with the others and think about like oh, I want to get my squat up to this or whatever, but then they're sacrificing form for that and they don't feel the muscle or whatever. And like this one guy in particular, he was like, I finally realized that was not the way to go, and he took a step back, like the ego thing, took all his weights down lower and focused on feeling the muscle, and then he just like exploded with like growing
Yeah.
way
Mhm.
faster than he did. I know you don't want to Hulk out, but he grew way. Your muscles just respond in getting stronger and bigger by connecting with it, even at the lower weights. So
Yep. Even with nothing, like I was saying, if you just sit there and do curls with just your arm, and you really focus on flexing your bicep and really activating that muscle, you can even get growth just from sitting here and flexing it.
it'll take longer than.
It's going to take a
Yeah.
very long. It's going to take a very
There you
long
go.
time.
There,
All right.
there you go. Instead of going to the pantry when you're, at work, like thinking, oh, I need to do something.